Pakistan. But what does Pakistan's Kirana Hill actually have? What does it look like? Take a look at this very interesting AI explainer where we debunk the Kirana mystery.
Pakistan is believed to possess around 170 to 200 nuclear warheads, with the capability to deploy them via land, air and sea-based platforms. But where are these weapons stored and how are they secured? One of the most secure facilities is located in the Kirana Hills region of Punjab province. This underground site is known as a Special Weapons Storage Area or SWSA, part of a broader nuclear command and control system overseen by the Strategic Plans Division, SPD. Kirana Hills is a fortified, multi-layered complex protected by surface-to-air missile systems, radar surveillance, armed SPD troops, blast-proof reinforced walls. Access is highly restricted. Only top-level clearance holders such as the Pakistan Army Chief and SPD Director General are authorized to physically enter the nuclear vaults. Warheads are kept separately from the delivery systems, like missiles or aircraft, to prevent unauthorized or accidental use. Each warhead is placed inside steel vaults secured by dual key systems. Two authorized personnel must be physically present with independent access codes to unlock any vault. When the need arises for testing or readiness checks, SPD personnel follow a multi-step protocol. Verification and authentication of command. Code entry and unlocking of warhead storage vaults. Warhead inspection and handling under strict security. Mating of the warhead with a delivery system like the Shaheen 3 ballistic missile. Final clearance from National Command Authority for movement or deployment. Once armed and mounted, these missiles can be moved to pre-designated launch sites or held in underground tunnels, keeping them ready but concealed.
Of the Army Staff.
Most often, promotions are given when you perform well. That doesn't seem to be the case in Pakistan and for its government. Days after being battered by India in Operation Sindoor, the Shehbaz Sharif government has promoted Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir to the rank of Field Marshal. So the announcement said this: the government of Pakistan has approved the promotion of General Asim Munir to the rank of Field Marshal for ensuring the safety of the country and defeating the enemy based on the high strategy and courageous leadership. This was the communication from the Prime Minister's office in Pakistan. The promotion makes Asim Munir the second senior military officer in Islamabad's history to be elevated to this position. Mohammad Ayub Khan, who was the president of Pakistan from 1958 to 1969, was the first field marshal of Pakistan Army. It is worth noting, however, that Ayub Khan essentially promoted himself to the highest military rank in the army after having carried out a coup and installing himself as the president of the country in 1958. The next year, 1959, nearing his age of retirement from the army, Ayub Khan awarded himself the rank of field marshal. The Indian and Pakistani armies follow the British pattern of ranks and privileges, and under these, a field marshal is considered to be on an active list till his death. He doesn't hold any office in official capacity beyond his date of retirement, but he's entitled to wear his uniform at any event he deems fit. India has had two field marshals, Sam Manekshaw and K.M. Kariappa. For Field Marshal Munir, the promotion marks a huge arc in his career. In fact, Asim Munir is the country's first madrasa-educated Pakistani Chief of Army Staff. He comes from a family of high-born Saids who trace their ancestry directly to Prophet Muhammad and who migrated to Pakistan in 1947. Munir was to retire in November 2025 after completing 3 years in the saddle. But in November 2024, he got Pakistan's parliament to pass a bill extending the tenure of all service chiefs from 3 years to 5 years, removing that upper age limit for a 4-star chief. Munir's current tenure will now end in 2027, after which he is still eligible for reappointment. So it's no coincidence that Munir was the head of the notorious Pakistani spy agency, the ISI, when it orchestrated the vicious Pulwama terror attack that saw the deaths of 40 CRPF personnel back on February 16, 2019. 6 years on, Munir, now de facto Supremo of Pakistan, is once again in India's crosshairs. He's popularly known as Jihadi General. It's not just India, but also Shehbaz Sharif that must not underestimate Asim Munir. Those who have done so in the past have learnt their lesson the hard way. Among them was Imran Khan, who, as Pakistan's Prime Minister, cleared Munir's appointment as ISI chief in 2018, only to sack him 9 months later, apparently because Munir was bold enough to brief him about the alleged corrupt dealings of his wife, Bushra Bibi. Munir never forgave Imran for the humiliation of being possibly the shortest-serving ISI chief, and bided his time to hit back. The opportunity came after Imran was deposed in an army-engineered parliamentary coup. This was in April 2022, and Munir, backed by a ruling coalition opposed to Imran, became the army chief that November. Months later, Asim Munir had Imran jailed on multiple charges of corruption that saw the former Prime Minister sentenced to 14 years in prison. And now, the Shehbaz Sharif government has made Asim Munir all-powerful. The elevation means that military supremacy supersedes civilian governance of Pakistan. Asim Munir now gets authority beyond future army chiefs. This would also mean that he has institutional immunity from scrutiny, accountability, or even post-retirement prosecution, which is why essentially he self-promoted himself. The beating retreat ceremony at the Attari-Wagah border is a daily military ritual between India and Pakistan. It's essentially a very visible and theatrical demonstration of the relationship between the two countries, carried out with dramatic flair by the border security forces of both sides. So here's a breakdown on its history, origin and significance. The beating retreat ceremony at Wagah began in 1959 as a symbolic gesture of cooperation and rivalry between the Indian Border Security Force and Pakistan Rangers. It was a mutual decision by both sides to conduct a daily flag-lowering ceremony with a degree of ceremony and synchronization. The idea was to lower national flags simultaneously at sunset and to showcase military discipline and national pride. This ceremony takes place daily before sunset. Soldiers from both sides perform a highly choreographed drill that includes aggressive stomping, high kicks, intense air battles, and the shouting of patriotic slogans. The border gates are usually flung open and soldiers from both countries, India and Pakistan, march toward each other and perform elaborate salutes. The ceremony ends with a handshake and the closing of the border gates. Now, however, in the scaled-down version, there's no handshake and the gates aren't opened. So the whole ceremony's origins of the beating retreat is tied to British military traditions, because the beating retreat was historically a military drum call in the British Army to signal troops to disengage from battle and return to their camps at sunset. This ceremony takes place daily and only at the Attari-Wagah border, so it doesn't happen at any other border post. There have been many instances of the beating retreat being suspended previously. In November 2014, after a suicide bombing near the Wagah border in Pakistan, they suspended the ceremony for 3 days. Then in March 2019, after the return of Wing Commander Abhinandan from Pakistan on March 1st, the beating retreat ceremony at the Attari-Wagah border was cancelled. The Indian authorities opted for a subdued ceremony without public viewing to avoid any spectacle. The very next year, in March 2020, due to COVID, the ceremony was suspended for the longest period. And then again, post the Pahalgam terror attack, that's now, the ceremony was suspended for about 12 days. Much like the Iron Dome, US President Donald Trump is now proposing a Golden Dome for America. And I'm handing it over to my colleague Sandeep Unithan to explain all you need to know about Trump's ambitious plan now.
President Donald Trump has just announced the Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect the United States from missile attacks. That shield costs $175 billion and it's going to be in place by 2029. But what is the Golden Dome project really? I'll explain how. Now, it's meant to protect the United States from ICBMs, or intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, typically, there are a host of rogue nations like North Korea and even Pakistan, which have the capability of building ICBMs that could target the United States at some point. Now, an ICBM is a missile that has a range of between 5,500 and 10,000 kilometers. Now, this missile fired from Asia, either East Asia or South Asia, has the potential to travel and hit the United States. China also has ICBMs. Now, how does the US existing missile defense shield work? And where does the Golden Dome fit on that? I'll explain how. Now, when an ICBM is fired, say in this case, I'm looking at a country like North Korea firing an ICBM, it has 3 phases. When it's launched, it goes into what is called the boost phase, which is when the rocket booster takes the missile up into the atmosphere and into space, at which point the booster separates and you have the warhead section of the ICBM, which actually contains the nuclear warhead or warheads that actually travel through space in what is called the mid-course phase. The mid-course phase is typically the longest phase of an ICBM's flight. If it has about a flight time of about 30 minutes, it would spend the most time here in the mid-course phase. And then finally, as it's approaching the atmosphere, you have the warhead breaking up into a number of MIRVs, or multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. Now, each of these is one nuclear weapon that aims for one target on the United States. Of course, you can have one warhead as well. Now, countries have introduced MIRVs and they have decoys as well. You have decoy warheads, which are designed to fool ballistic missile defense shields. So, the missile is at its deadliest when it is in the mid-course phase and when it is in the terminal phase, when it actually begins maneuvering, when each of these warheads start maneuvering towards their targets. So the US already has what is called a BMD, or a ballistic missile defense shield, in place. It's a system of satellites, ground-based sensors, and missiles that are fired from either warships. You have the standard missile series which are fired from warships to tackle these incoming ballistic missiles and MIRVs. And you, of course, have ground-based sensors, you have ground-based missile defense like the THAAD, the Terminal High Altitude Defense Missiles. You have Patriot 3 missiles that can tackle all of these when they're coming in, when the enemy ICBMs are coming into the United States, targets in the United States, their cities. What the Golden Shield is supposed to do is tackle missiles when they are at their most vulnerable, which is in the boost phase. That is this time when it is actually being launched into the atmosphere, when booster separation has not happened, and obviously the missile is in maneuvering, when the MIRVs haven't opened up. That is when the Golden Dome will actually start targeting enemy missiles in this phase and will launch missiles or lasers to intercept them when they are in this phase, even before they come into the range of their BMD systems that are based here in the United States. So you're looking at space-based systems, and this is where it gets tricky, gets complicated, because there are treaties banning the positioning of weapons in space. The United States possibly is going to position weapons in space which will tackle these ICBMs. It could be a combination of, as I said, it could be missiles, it could be lasers, it could be a combination of both, but primarily to tackle these missiles when they are here, when they're in their initial phase. This is, of course, the toughest part of intercepting a ballistic missile, which is why very few countries, in fact, no country has the capability to tackle a missile when it is so far away, more than 10,000 kilometers away. You have to have the capability to look at the missile firstly, that's the easy part, but then to track him and to destroy him before he starts this phase of the MIRVs or even his booster separation phase. So this is essentially what the Golden Dome project is. It is a massive system, about 175 billion, that is going to sit on top of the existing BMD system. So this is the existing US BMD shield, and here is where you're going to have the Golden Dome. So that's the outermost layer of an already existing US BMD system.
In a major move to strengthen digital safety and privacy, US President Donald Trump signed a bill that enacts stricter penalties for the distribution of non-consensual intimate imagery, whether real or generated by artificial intelligence. It's called the Take It Down Act. Passed with overwhelming bipartisan congressional support, criminalizes non-consensual publication of intimate images while also mandating their removal from online platforms.
Today, it's my honor to officially sign the Take It Down Act into law. It's a big thing, very important, so horrible what takes place. This will be the first ever federal law to combat the distribution of explicit, imaginary, posted without subjects' consent. They take horrible pictures, and I guess sometimes even make up the pictures, and they post it without consent or anything else. And
First Lady Melania Trump, who played a key role in pushing the bill through Congress, also signed the document, though her signature was symbolic.
A national victory that will help parents and families protect children from online exploitation.
So what is the Take It Down Act? At its core, this act makes essentially it a federal crime to share or even threaten to share explicit content of someone without their permission, whether that content is real or artificially created with AI. It also requires websites and social media platforms to remove such material within 48 hours of notice from a victim. Platforms must also delete duplicate content. The law includes real consequences, making it one of the most stringent federal laws addressing AI-generated abuse and revenge porn. If someone's found guilty, especially in cases involving minors, they could face up to 3 years behind bars and steep financial penalties. The bill got overwhelming support. It was introduced by Republican Senator Ted Cruz and Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar. Now, it passed the House in April by a 409-2 vote and then cleared the Senate by unanimous consent. The legislation was partly inspired by a real-life case involving Elliston Berry, a teenager whose AI-generated image was circulated online. a mother campaigned for action after struggling for nearly a year to get Snapchat to remove that content. Meta, which owns and operates Instagram and Facebook, has come forward to openly support the legislation. Research shows that victims of deepfake or revenge pornography can have devastating mental, emotional, or physical effects on people, particularly on minors, on children. But the issue gained attention over the last few years as high-profile celebrities have become victims of deepfake technology. In late January 2024, sexually explicit AI-generated deepfake images of Taylor Swift were proliferated on social media platforms. Now, while this law has been praised widely as the need of the hour by victim advocacy groups, it's also stirred up a bit of criticism from digital rights organizations and free speech advocates. Some argue the legislation might go too far, or at least that its wording is far too vague. The concern is that in trying to avoid penalties, companies will take down anything that seems even remotely controversial, thus silencing legitimate content. But let's now talk about India. I know you're all wondering, does India have a version of the Take It Down Act? Not really, but a combination of IT rules, child protection laws, and cybercrime enforcement provides some safeguards, but it's not as sweeping as America's law. After the ED filed its charge sheet in the National Herald case, it's also leveled grave allegations against Rahul and Sonia Gandhi, claiming 142 crores of proceeds of crime were used for personal gain. Let's break down all the details of the case for you. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi face charges of money laundering. This is in a 10-year-old case filed against them by the ED based on a complaint by Subramanian Swamy. It pertains to the sale of the National Herald newspaper to a company owned by the Gandhis. And the ED is currently probing the shareholding pattern, the financial transactions, and the role of party functionaries. So let's begin by telling you about National Herald. The National Herald was a newspaper that was founded by Jawaharlal Nehru along with other freedom fighters back in 1938. It was meant to voice the concerns of the Liberal Brigade in the Indian National Congress. Published by Associated Journals Limited or AJL, this newspaper became essentially a mouthpiece of the Congress party after independence. But in 2008, the paper closed down with a debt of over 90 crores. Now here's where it gets interesting. The AJL, as I mentioned, is Associated Journals Limited, got a loan of 90 crores from the Congress party. And this was a zero-interest loan repeatedly to revive the National Herald. Enter Young India Limited, a company that was set up in 2010 with Rahul Gandhi as a director. So while Rahul and his mother Sonia Gandhi hold 76% of the company's shares, the remaining 24% are held by Congress leaders Motilal Vora and Oscar Fernandez. So Young India bought National Herald from AGL, and it is this deal that's under the scanner. Why? Well, Young India Limited took over National Herald, which also meant assets worth a whopping 2,000 crore plus. And Young India Limited only curiously paid 50 lakhs to obtain the rights to recover 90.25 crores which AGL owed the Congress party. So essentially, if I were to simplify that, the loan given by Congress had been transferred to a company owned by the Gandhis. Public money converted to personal use. And that's why on 1st November 2012, Subramanian Swamy filed a private complaint in a court in Delhi alleging that both Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi have committed fraud and land grabbing worth 160 crores, referring to the assets of AGL. He claimed that through this fraud, they'd got the publication rights of the National Herald along with real estate properties in Delhi and parts of Uttar Pradesh.
90 करोड़ रुपए देने के इनको अधिकार नहीं है अंडर द रूल्स इनकम टैक्स लॉ ये दे नहीं सकते ये महाभ्रष्टाचार है यहाँ शेयर होल्डर्स में 80% की देहांत हो चुकी है और कई कंपनीज हैं जो बंद हो गए हैं.
On 7th December 2015, the Delhi High Court ordered Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi and 5 others to appear in person before the trial court on 9th December, which they ignored. The Gandhis didn't turn up, but a trial court then ordered them to appear in person on 19th December. Rahul and Sonia finally appeared in court and they were granted bail. Years later, in 2022, Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi were questioned for several days in the case. Rahul Gandhi was questioned for nearly 55 hours by the CBI and the ED over the alleged corruption and financial irregularities involving this newspaper.
100% political vendetta, pure political vendetta coming out of the PM office. This is what this is. This is their way of doing politics. Pure 100% vendetta. Full faith. I have full faith in the legal system of this country.
The ED is now moving forward swiftly with its probe. On April 12th, the ED served notices to take possession of immovable assets worth 661 crores in Delhi, Mumbai and Lucknow. It had attached some of these properties as part of the money laundering probe. With the charge sheet being filed now, it paves the way for a trial against Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi.
Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Long night?
You have no idea.
I got you.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro, the edge of excellence.
Hi, here are the top headlines presented by Motorola. Amit Shah calls Operation Sindoor a symbol of bravery. Court summons Nirmala Sitharaman in defamation case. 4 Maoists gunned down in Gadchiroli district.
I'm Shivani Sharma reporting from line of control in the Uri sector where the situation remains tense.
People staying at line of control have started to move out.
Level of tension between India and Pakistan is too high.
There is a sense of fear and there is a sense of apprehension of rising escalation.
The situation along this border also stays tense.
I am Brijesh Doshi reporting from the village which is just 40 kilometers away from the Pakistan.
I'm Sharad Kumar reporting from Jaisalmer.
Right behind me at 800 meters, there's an international border with Pakistan.
We are reporting from Gurdaspur near the international border.
I'm Mir Farid from war zone Jammu and Kashmir.
This is Anmol Nath Bali,
Devankur Vadhavan,
Naseem Basir,
Shivani Sharma,
Ashraf Wani,
Kamaljeet Sandhu,
Mosmi Singh.
This is Ashutosh Mishra reporting somewhere near the line of control in Naushera sector for India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
It's a fashion statement that has fans, fashion critics and geopolitical experts in a chokehold. Aishwarya Rai Bachchan's stunning appearance at Cannes has become a big talking point. But it wasn't just her outfit that turned heads. The former beauty queen, Bollywood icon and Cannes veteran dazzled on the red carpet once again. But what caught everyone's attention was a small yet powerful detail. A streak of sindoor traditionally worn by married Hindu women, proudly adorning her hairline. Usually Aishwarya's sindoor wouldn't have hit headlines, but it did, since it comes at a moment charged with national sentiment. Just days after India's Operation Sindoor that targeted terror and military infrastructure across the border in Pakistan. Many are wondering if Aishwarya's sindoor was an intentional statement or a tribute to India's successful military operation. The symbolism of sindoor, sacrifice and strength, was also invoked by the Prime Minister. At a moment when India asserts itself on diplomatic and defence fronts, the image of Aishwarya Rai Bachchan's sindoor may have quietly echoed a larger national mood, one of strength, pride and unwavering identity. Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Let's get your breaking news that's coming in here on Super 6. Remember the incident that played out on Wednesday evening of an Indigo flight being hit by a hailstorm, leading to the nose of the aircraft being damaged? Well, the Director General of Civil Aviation, the DGCA, has confirmed that yes, Pakistan refused to go ahead and give permission for the flight to take a quick detour and enter into Pakistani airspace, keeping in mind the turbulent weather in Srinagar. Pakistan put 227 lives on board that flight at risk for their own petty reasons. The DGCA in their report has also given details of the kind of damage inflicted on the aircraft, reiterating that it was miraculous really that the plane managed to land in Srinagar with all passengers, crew, pilot completely safe. The autopilot of the flight had tripped. The flight lost height and went right down at one point, and then the pilot managed to steer the aircraft towards the runway and ensure a safe landing. So absolutely tremendous work that's done by that pilot there, and he ensured that all 227 lives were saved. I want to bring in Shivani Sharma for more details on this. Shivani, give us a sense of what the DGCA has said in their report. We also have, of course, some information from the Indian Air Force as well. Get us that as well.
Akhsita, certainly this was a miraculous escape for the 227 passengers on board Delhi to Srinagar on this Indigo flight. The DGCA has now given out a statement that confirms that Pakistan had denied the airspace when this flight asked for so. So the Indian Air Force sources have also come up with certain inputs. They say that since there's a NOTAM which was issued by Pakistan and the airspace was closed, so Air Force not only assisted this Indigo flight and it helped it get into contact with the Lahore ATC. And when Lahore ATC denied this airspace usage by this Indigo flight, the Indian Air Force helped this flight to get in control, and it was actually ensured that this flight takes on all the measures that it can on its way to Srinagar. But certainly the DGCA statement has made it very clear that this was a very challenging turbulence that was encountered by this particular flight, and this was the pilot with his courage, his bravery, his skill that he managed to land this flight safely. But certainly once again we've been speaking that Pakistan has been exposed. Akhsita, it denied this flight to be safe, it denied the airspace, and as per protocols, even if there is a NOTAM and there is no action going on in the airspace, the flight could have been given some respite by Pakistan.
But you know, what's very clear is protocol doesn't matter. for Pakistan. They've tried to target civilians before. Even now, when 227 lives were at risk, what was their priority? Ensuring they continue with their pettiness. And that was clear, evident in this particular incident. But we also understand that the active intervention by the Indian Air Force also, Shivani, in guiding the pilot, guiding this aircraft, tremendously helped in its safe landing at the Srinagar airport.
Akhsita, we've been getting some inputs from the Indian Air Force sources that since there was a NOTAM at place, but Indian Air Force guided and helped and assisted this flight to be safe to its route in Srinagar. The controls were being guided by the Indian Air Force. The pilot was in communication with the Indian Air Force Northern Control, which initially was also asked by the Indigo flight to use the Pakistan's airspace. But since the NOTAM was in force, Pakistan denied the usage of its airspace. The Indian Air Force Northern Control helped this flight to...
Okay, apologies. A bit of a problem there with Shivani's network, but Shivani was running us through the details that have emerged on how the Indian Air Force also immediately stepped in to help in any way they could with directing this particular aircraft to safer areas, particularly with the kind of weather patterns that was prevalent over Srinagar. Absolute miracle that all of those passengers, crew members on board that flight were perfectly fine, courtesy that pilot, because according to the DGCA, even the autopilot completely tripped off because of the damage caused due to the hailstorm. All right, let's move on and talk about the International Monetary Fund issuing its first statement defending that massive bailout package to Pakistan, $1.3 billion that they've handed over to Pakistan right after the Pahalgam terror attacks. There have been fresh set of conditions that IMF has put forth. So Pakistan, yes, has secured that IMF loan, but that doesn't mean that India's series of financial strikes end there. India pushed, of course, for the IMF to hold off on that package. But while the IMF has given it, now India started a new mission to push the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, to revert Pakistan back to its grey list. Remember, Pakistan previously was on this grey list because of terror activities. India will also oppose the World Bank's funding to Pakistan next month. The strategy is clear. We've taken diplomatic action. Now, next step is to choke Pakistan financially at a time when they're already in an economic mess, in financial doldrums. More details in our next report.
The International Monetary Fund justifies its bailout to Pakistan. However, the global agency has imposed a fresh set of conditions on the debt-ridden nation in exchange for the billion-dollar aid. The IMF has stated that Pakistan government must seek Parliament nod for the federal budget in line with the IMF agreement by June. The conditions also include implementing agricultural income tax reforms across all provinces. In total, 11 more conditions have been added for Pakistan to follow in order to receive the next payment. This takes the number of conditions under the bailout program to 50. Despite the conditions, the IMF has defended its bailout, saying its board is satisfied with Pakistan. The global body says Pakistan has met all targets set in the funding criteria.
In the case of Pakistan, our board found that Pakistan had indeed met all of the targets. It had made progress on some of the reforms. And for that reason, the board went ahead and approved the program. With respect to the voting or the decision-making at our board, we do not disclose that publicly, or for the board to decide to move forward and complete Pakistan's review.
According to sources, the Indian government had reached out to IMF's Executive Director Kristalina Georgieva, saying that New Delhi is not against giving money to any country, but the bailout has come during a war-like situation. India has repeatedly warned that Pakistan uses global funding to sponsor terror infrastructure.
भारत यही चाहेगा कि IMF पाकिस्तान को अपनी $1 बिलियन की असिस्टेंस पर वह पुनर्विचार करे। भारत नहीं चाहता जो फंडिंग हम IMF को करते हैं वह डायरेक्ट या इनडायरेक्ट किसी भी तरीके से पाकिस्तान या किसी भी देश में टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बनाने में वह इस्तेमाल की।
Sources have told India Today that the Indian government will now push the global financial crime watchdog FATF to add Pakistan to its grey list again. Pakistan was taken off the FATF grey list in 2022, boosting its reputation among lenders. Further, India will oppose the upcoming World Bank funding for Pakistan. The World Bank is expected to approve a $20 billion lending package to Pakistan in June. Bureau Report, India Today.
There's been a lot of anger focused towards the International Monetary Fund. Why did they give this kind of financial assistance to Pakistan when we all know what Pakistan has been up to and perhaps what this funds is actually being used for? So let's break down for you what exactly is the IMF's criteria for providing this kind of financial assistance to countries. Only IMF countries, member countries are eligible. Pakistan falls in that list, which is why they've been able to get that kind of funding. The request for assistance must also come from a member nation. If it's someone who is not an IMF member, then the request must come from someone who is a part of the International Monetary Fund. They must also demonstrate a genuine balance of payments. Now, of course, we know about the problem that Pakistan has been facing. So considering that, they've met this criteria as well. A nation unable to meet essential imports or meet external debt as well falls in their criteria to be able to get any doles from the IMF. The country also must accept economic reforms given by the International Monetary Fund, which is why in our report earlier, we'd also broken down for you the conditions that the IMF has put forth. Essentially, IMF controls the economy of Pakistan. What they say, you must go ahead and do. Reasonable prospect of repaying the loan. Many would believe that Pakistan really doesn't fall under that category, but the IMF in their statement has said that this is part of many installments that they've been handing over to Pakistan in the hope that it will help Pakistan get back on track. How bad is the situation in Pakistan? How bankrupt are they? Let me explain to you right now what the sense is of the situation in Pakistan. They've got structural flaws and weak governance. There's repeated bailouts have essentially trapped Pakistan in a debt cycle. What do? They make a request, it comes through, more money gets pumped into the economy, then again a vicious cycle of them asking for more money. There's also a chronic dependence on international monetary funds. So at this point, Pakistan is completely helpless. If by any chance IMF cuts them off, they have no way of actually ensuring that they have enough money in their system, in their economy. Diversion of funds into non-priority areas. This is something we've been repeatedly highlighting here on India Today of how Pakistan is corrupt, the army is corrupt, the civilian government is corrupt, so any money that seeps into the system goes into pockets instead of going into economic revival, which is a big challenge. And then there's the fact that Pakistan has to go to the IMF, the World Bank. Why? Because they have extended a begging bowl before to their allies who have refused to help financially. Some of these allies stand by Pakistan in backing and endorsing them when they seek money from the IMF or other groups, but don't personally want to step up and provide any funding to Pakistan. Let me bring in Karishma Asudani of Business Today TV on this broadcast. Karishma, just explain to us what India is doing next, because we understand that now our focus is on ensuring that the World Bank aid that goes across to Pakistan is stalled immediately.
Well, Akhsita, we are very clear with the fact, and sources in the government have been telling us that India is firm on its stance that they will not let further financial funding come to Pakistan because of their involvement in cross-border terrorism. And while we are disappointed of the fact that IMF had to give this loan, we also understand that this bailout was something that was decided in September 2024, and a part of the whole package, the review of it, was just done recently. However, we have decided that World Bank, in fact, in the month of June, is going to take its call on extending a $20 billion loan to Pakistan, something that it had already discussed a while back. India may want to reach to World Bank on this. They may want to write, is what our sources have been telling us, that no funding should be provided to them. We are also looking forward to the upcoming FATF meeting, where we are stressing on the fact that Pakistan must be actually degraded on its rating, on the grade rating because of their incapability of cooperating when it comes to military and geopolitical issues. This is not just it. We are thankful of the fact that IMF could bring in some changes. In fact, IMF had introduced 11 new conditions just recently for the release of these tranche of funds. And like we just heard Julie, IMF's Executive Director of Communications, she did very carefully mention that IMF will continue to review, and if there is any kind of digression that is seen from Pakistan from the structural reforms that it has promised to abide by, then there is a chance that any further future loans will be cancelled upon.
So let's see what happens, whether Pakistan adheres to the terms and conditions IMF has put forth and whether India's attempts to stall funding to Pakistan works at the stage of the World Bank. Thanks very much, Karishma, for those details. That picture we're showing, very, very apt, of Shehbaz Sharif with a begging bowl. All right, let's move on. And I want to get you details of a controversy that's taken center stage in Karnataka. I'm sure you're aware of all the politics that we've been witnessing over language, over culture in Karnataka. The latest twist in this entire saga and the battle has reached bathroom shelves. I'm not joking. Mysore sandal soap, a brand deeply rooted in Karnataka's heritage, is now at the heart of a controversy after the state government roped in actor Tamanna Bhatia as its new brand ambassador. And it's not just making headlines, it's stirring a whole lot of emotions. I'm sure you're wondering why. Take a look at this report.
The fragrance of Mysore sandal soap may be iconic, but its latest brand move has left many with a bitter aftertaste. The Karnataka government has signed